My own parents told me I was selfish because I wouldn't hand over my college fund to pay for my brother's 50-0 wedding. That was the moment I realized love in my family wasn't unconditional, it was transactional. So they cut me off, told the whole family I abandoned them, that I didn't understand sacrifice. I was 18, alone, broke. But I didn't beg. I built. And 10 years later, when my brother remarried in a luxury venue, the one I owned in secret, I showed up, took the mic and gave them the kind of speech they'd never forget. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my voice, the one they tried to silence. Have you ever been guilted into giving more than you had just to keep the peace in your family? This story is for you. Please support our channel. It means the world to us. Thank you in advance as you like, share, and drop a comment if you've ever been called selfish for choosing yourself. Because sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's survival. I was 18 when it all started. My college acceptance letter had just come in. I'd gotten into my dream program for event management, and I was set to use the money I'd been saving since I was 13. Babysitting gigs, weekend jobs, every dollar went into that college fund. Then one night, Mom called a family meeting. I walked into the living room, confused to see my brother Darren, grinning ear to ear while holding a thick wedding binder. Mom and Dad were sitting on the couch, eyes glowing with excitement. "We have some big news," Dad announced. "Darren and Kayla are finally getting married." I smiled. "That's awesome! Congratulations!" Then Mom turned to me, her tone soft too soft. "We've been doing the math," she said, tapping a calculator. "And with your savings, we could pull this off beautifully. Just a loan, sweetheart. Family helps family." My smile vanished. "My savings, that's for college." Dad sighed heavily. "You'll still go. Maybe take a gap year. This is about priorities. Your brother's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime moment." I looked at Darren. He didn't even flinch, didn't say thank you, just shrugged and said, "It's not like you need a fancy degree to plan weddings." My stomach dropped. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "But no, I can't do that." That single word was like a match dropped in gasoline. Mom's voice turned cold. "I raised you better than this." Dad stood up. "You're choosing selfishness over family?" "I'm choosing my future," I replied. Darren scoffed. "Wow, guess we know who the real diva is." 2 days later, my things were in boxes. No goodbye hugs, just a list of rules for staying away until I learned respect. And just like that, I was out. No money, no family, no home. I stayed with my friend Talia for the first few weeks. Her mum cleared out their tiny laundry room and put in an air mattress for me. That's where I slept next to a shelf full of detergent, with a box fan buzzing all night to keep me cool. It wasn't ideal, but it was safe and quiet. But the betrayal didn't stop at being kicked out. My phone lit up with message after message from cousins, aunts, uncles, some I hadn't even spoken to in years, all repeating the same words. "How could you do that to your family? Your mom gave up everything for you. Your brother deserved that wedding you only get married once." And from my grandmother, who had always been gentle with me. "Don't come around for the holidays, you broke your mother's heart." My mother made sure the story got out before I could even speak. In their version, I was greedy. I'd refused to help during a financial emergency. I had shamed the family during Darren's engagement. What they didn't mention, that my brother had wrecked his credit from years of overspending. That his fiancée wanted a designer wedding with a celebrity planner, a private yacht, and crystal tableware from Italy. That I'd worked for 5 years to save that money, dollar by dollar, dreaming of the day I could build something of my own. Instead, They told everyone I stormed out and refused to sacrifice, that I let money change me. It would have hurt less if it came from strangers, but this was blood. The same aunt who helped braid my hair for prom said I was a cautionary tale of what happens when pride takes over. Even my godfather, Uncle Ray, pulled me aside at the grocery store one day. "You know your parents just wanted what's best for everyone," he said. "Why couldn't you just help?" "Because no one ever helps me," I whispered. He looked disappointed and walked away. Darren's wedding went ahead without my help, smaller than planned, but still lavish enough to make the rounds on Facebook. I watched the photos go up. Mom, beaming in a gold lace dress. Darren and Kayla, holding hands under a canopy of roses. My dad giving a speech at the reception, glass raised high. The caption, "Love wins. Family is everything." But I wasn't in any of those photos. No one asked if I was okay. Not when I dropped out of my first semester because I couldn't afford the tuition. Not when I worked a full shift on Christmas Eve handing out samples at the mall, just to cover rent. Not when I cried in a walk-in freezer during my second job because my boss yelled at me for not smiling enough. Every time I tried to move forward, it felt like someone was tying weights to my ankles. But the part that broke me most, my mother sent me a card 6 months after the wedding. I thought maybe, just maybe, it was an olive branch. I opened the envelope slowly, heart pounding. Inside was a handwritten note. "Hope you're finding peace with your choices. Darren and Kayla are expecting now. If you want to make amends, consider contributing to the baby shower. No, I miss you. No, how are you? Just another request." Another withdrawal from an emotional bank account I never even got to open. That was the moment something in me changed. I stopped crying. I stopped begging. I started building. Not out of spite, but because I needed to prove only to myself that I was more than the girl who said no. I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have parents funding me. I didn't have a rich mentor or a "you got this" support system cheering me on. But I had two things: grit and a clipboard. It started small. I was working at a fast food spot during the day and late nights at a banquet hall scrubbing dishes. One Friday, after a particularly chaotic event, I stayed back to help one of the overwhelmed event coordinators organize leftover rentals. She was juggling 6 things at once, nearly in tears, trying to figure out which vendor was picking up the floral columns. I stepped in. "Want me to help log these out?" She blinked at me. "You know how?" I nodded. I didn't, but I'd been watching her clipboard all night. "I've seen you do it. I can figure it out." She handed it to me. I did the check-in, labeled the crates, and double-confirmed with the vendor rep. Took me 45 minutes. When I was done, she gave me a look I'd never forget. "You're good at this." That night, I stayed up till 3 a.m., watching wedding setup tutorials on YouTube. I read forums, joined Facebook groups, and created a free Wix site to advertise myself as a wedding assistant. For the next year, I said yes to everything. Carrying chairs for backyard ceremonies, coordinating bridal parties for courthouse elopements, hauling fake ivy arches up fire escapes. No task was too small. No client was too cheap. I needed the money, but I also needed the experience. My business card? It was handwritten at first. My first uniform? Black jeans and a plain tee with a badge I made from laminated paper. But the brides kept calling back. "Thanks for keeping my mom calm. You were the only reason I didn't lose it before walking down the aisle. You made everything feel smoother." Bit by bit, things changed. I got a $500 grant through a local entrepreneur program. Used it to buy a logo, better business cards, and a portable speaker system for receptions. I worked weddings on Saturdays catered private events on Sundays, and cleaned classrooms from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. on weeknights. I slept maybe 4 hours a night. But every dollar I made, I put right back into my business. By 24, I wasn't just an assistant, I was a planner. Midnight Magnolia Events. That's what I called it. I chose that name because I used to walk past this giant magnolia tree near Talia's old apartment. Whenever I felt like quitting, I'd sit on the curb beneath it and cry quietly into my knees. But somehow, that tree always bloomed soft white flowers in the darkest hours. It reminded me that something beautiful could still grow in silence, in struggle, in the shadows. By the time I hit 26, I had 5 planners working under me and a storage unit full of decor. We weren't fancy, but we were reliable. And in this industry, that counted for a lot. One day, I got a call from a venue coordinator who said, "I keep hearing your name. My boss is opening a new luxury estate next year and wants fresh partnerships. You interested?" That call changed everything. I toured the estate 3 days later, a sweeping mansion outside the city, with glass walls and a sunset view that stole your breath. The asking price? Not listed publicly, but I asked anyway. I didn't flinch when she told me, because what no one knew, not my family, not even Talia, was that I had been saving again. Every bonus, every tip, every side hustle, I'd been stacking it. I didn't spend like my peers, no luxury bags, no wild nights out. Just purpose. And now, I had enough for a silent stake. I registered a new holding company, M Heritage Events Group, and bought a 60% share in the estate under the radar. I kept my name out of it. The staff only knew me as the private investor. I became the woman who once slept in a laundry room and now owned the keys to a dream. Funny thing was, my family still had no idea. They thought I disappeared, that I never recovered after walking out. Occasionally I'd hear through cousins that Darren and Kayla were doing well, raising their second child, that my parents were proud grandparents. I never corrected them. I didn't need to prove anything. Until one day, a wedding booking came through for the estate. A familiar name. Darren Whittaker plus Kayla Whittaker. My heart stopped. It was their vow renewal. A second wedding. Big one this time, real big. 200 guests. Full media coverage. Destination style. Champagne towers. The works. And the venue they'd chosen? Mine. I stared at the reservation confirmation for a full minute. Then I smiled. Not because I wanted revenge, but because life was handing me a microphone and I wasn't going to whisper. I didn't interfere with the planning. I let my team handle it like they would any other client. I didn't reveal myself, but I circled the date on my calendar. I picked out my dress, and I got ready. Not to ruin the night, but to finally take it back. The day of Darren's second wedding came with blue skies and warm breezes, picture perfect. I arrived an hour before the ceremony, dressed in a simple black jumpsuit and low heels. I didn't wear a name tag. I didn't need one. The staff knew me by my alias. Miss May, silent partner, owner. I watched from the upper balcony as white roses were carried in by the truckload. My team was in motion setting up gold-rimmed chargers, floating candles, custom monogrammed linens. Kayla had spared no expense. Again. She wore a pearl-studded mermaid gown with a 15-foot veil. Darren was in ivory, grinning like a man who'd never known struggle. They walked the grounds, taking photos, unaware that the woman behind all of it, the soil, the bricks, the chandeliers, was the same girl they'd kicked out a decade ago. At 6:30 p.m., guests began arriving. I kept my distance until the reception. That's when I made my move. I walked in calmly, just as the servers began pouring champagne. I wasn't trying to make a scene. I just wanted a seat at the back. I wanted to see what the family looked like after all these years. I recognized faces instantly. Aunt Diane, who called me a disgrace. Uncle Ray, who turned his back on me at the grocery store. Even Grandma, now in a wheelchair, chatting excitedly with Darren's in-laws. No one noticed me at first, until I stepped up near the DJ booth just as they were preparing to hand Darren the mic for his thank you toast. "Excuse me," I said softly to the DJ. "May I?" He hesitated. "You're—" I leaned in. "The owner. This is my venue." The look on his face said it all. He handed me the mic. I walked toward the stage slowly. Darren saw me first. His smile froze. Kayla blinked, confused. My parents? They went pale like they'd seen a ghost. I raised the mic, my voice steady, calm, kind, even. "Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all enjoying the celebration tonight. It's truly beautiful, of the finest events we've hosted at this venue." Whispers began to ripple through the crowd. My mother sat forward in her seat, her mouth slightly open. I continued, locking eyes with Darren. I wasn't invited tonight. In fact, I haven't been invited to much in the last 10 years. Not to birthdays, not to holidays, not to the first wedding, or even the baby shower. Kayla shifted awkwardly. The guests grew still. But that's okay, because 10 years ago I said no. I said no to giving away my college fund. I said no to sacrificing my future for someone else's fairy tale. I turned slightly toward my parents. For that I was called selfish. I was cast out, and a story was told about me, a very loud story. Dad started to speak, but I lifted a hand. "Let me finish." I turned back to the crowd. I spent nights sleeping on floors, worked through holidays, took 3 jobs just to survive, but I didn't come here tonight for pity. I stepped down from the stage and walked slowly through the rows of tables. I came to remind you that some of us bloom where we're buried. I paused. Tonight's event was brought to you by Midnight Magnolia Events. You've probably seen the name on the welcome board. A few guests nodded. I built it. From scratch. Then I turned, pointed to the logo engraved on the glass near the ballroom entrance. That logo, that's mine too. I looked back at Darren. I own this venue. Gasps echoed across the room. Kayla's wine glass tilted slightly in her hand. "I've been here the whole time," I said softly. "Not in your life, but building mine." My mom finally spoke up, her voice sharp. "Why would you do this here, now?" I met her eyes without flinching. "I didn't come to ruin the wedding. I came to reclaim the mic." I looked around once more, letting the silence stretch. To everyone who believed I was the problem, I hope you'll take a moment to wonder why your version of love only worked when I was giving. I walked back to the DJ, handed him the mic, and added gently, "Congratulations, Darren. The champagne's on the house." Then I turned and walked toward the exit. One clap, then another, then silence again. And I didn't care. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't performing. I was standing. I didn't stay for the dancing. I stepped outside into the night, heels clicking against the stone walkway I'd once imagined laying out in blueprints. The wind was soft, the garden lights glowing gold. Somewhere behind me, music picked up again. Laughter resumed. Life moved on. But something inside me finally stilled. For years, I thought success meant proving them wrong. That one day, I'd stand in front of them with trophies, headlines, or bank statements and say, "See, I was worth something." But that night, I didn't feel anger. I felt free. They didn't clap for me. They didn't apologize. But I didn't need that anymore. because I saw it in their eyes. Shock, guilt, and deep, quiet respect they wouldn't say out loud. That was enough. And Darren? He didn't chase me. Neither did Mom or Dad. But a week later, I got a letter. Just one line in my mother's handwriting. If we'd known what you were building, maybe we would have asked how to help instead of how to take. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. Now, I host mentorship dinners for young women building businesses with nothing but $1 and a dream. I tell them, you don't need their permission to succeed. You just need your own promise. I don't send invites to my family, but the door's not locked. They're welcome to come in, just not with empty hands. Have you ever been called selfish for protecting your future, for saying no, for choosing peace over performance? This story is yours too. Sometimes, healing doesn't look like reconciliation. It looks like building a life so strong, no one can evict you from it. So tell me in the comments, what's the mic you're ready to take back? And if this story moved you, please like, share and subscribe. Not for me, but for every person still sitting in the laundry room, wondering if they'll ever make it out. They will, because you did.